everyone, Effie here. Today I'm going to show you how I made this card using our Happy Place stamp set, and also we have a nice little pop-up surprise in the middle of this card. So I'm going to start off by partially embossing the florals in our Happy Place stamp image. Within this image, you have this beautiful open face book that's already integrated in the entire image, but I only want to use the peony clusters. So I partially inked them up with some Versamark ink, stamped them onto watercolor paper, and then I spooned on our rose gold embossing powder and melted all of that powder with our heat tool, embossing these beautiful floral images. Now I'm going to do some wet and wet watercoloring with some Ken Oliver color bursts. Since the florals aren't very large, I'm just going to stick to one color. And for the peonies, I'll be using Peony Color Burst by Ken Oliver. So I've already gone ahead and wet the entire area of this bloom first with clean water using a medium tipped water brush. Then I took my fine tip water brush, dipped it into my watercolor well that has the Peony Color Burst powder in it, and then I just started applying the pigment into the inner portions of each of my peony petals. Now, after I put down the first base layer of color, I'm just going to go back and add deeper concentrations of this pigment into the inner corners of the petals, just giving it a little bit more shading and a little bit more depth. Once I finish coloring in the biggest bloom in this cluster, I'm going to go ahead and color in the buds the same way. You didn't see me do it on camera, but I did wet the buds with some clean water, and then I applied a little bit of the pigment, and then I blended that pigment out to cover the entire area of the two smaller buds. Next, I'm going to watercolor the smaller open face peony in the same manner that I did for the first largest peony. Now, the petals in this floral are a little bit smaller, so you don't need as much pigment, and all you need to do is just use a lighter touch as you're painting this flowers. If you're having trouble with getting a nice blend within the petals since they are smaller, I would suggest switching to fine tip brushes for both your blending brush and for your pigment brush. And also make sure you control the amount of moisture that's on your brush tip. If you have too much water on your brush tip, it's going to be harder to control the pigment, and your petals are going to be a single tone. You're going to have trouble getting a nice gradient within each small petal. To help control the amount of moisture on your brush tip, make sure you have a piece of paper towel or a napkin or something by your workstation and just dab off the brush tip to lessen the amount of water on that tip. So that is one piece of advice that I can give you on controlling the amount of water that you have on your brushes. So once I finish painting in my peonies, I'm just going to go ahead and paint the leaves using sap green color burst, and my watercoloring is 99% done. I'm going to color in just a little bit more later on, but at this point, my panel is completely dry, so I'm just going to partially die cut the images using their coordinating die. I was so excited to make this card today because it's a great way to show you how to stretch your Happy Place stamps, because the cluster image has this beautiful book and it's a really beautiful image, but sometimes you just want to use the florals. So after you die cut the images partially, you can just cut out all these extra pieces and just use the florals, and you can use florals in almost any occasion card. For this cluster, I'm just going to leave that little bit of white and color in the white space with some more peony color burst, because it kind of looks like petals, and I found that it'll be camouflaged later on. So here I have a panel that I stamped with our toned hearts and our Couture color inks, and I also have this sentiment from our Hustle and Grind set, and then this panel was die cut using our double stitch rectangles stitched small die collection. I created all of these elements off camera just to save a little bit of time on this video. So now I'm just going to rose gold heat emboss the sentiment right onto that stitch rectangular panel. And then I pop that panel up onto my toned hearts panel with some dimensional foam tape. Here I positioned it in the center of my toned hearts panel, but later I move it to the left because I liked that placement a little better. Next, I'm just going to take this small butterfly stamp from our Beautiful Butterflies 3 collection, and I just stamped it right onto that stitch panel, but I actually changed my mind with a few things with the butterfly and the placement of this stitched panel. I moved it to the left, so now all portions of my florals were on the panel. And now I'm just going to stamp an additional 3 butterflies from the same Beautiful Butterflies 3 stamp set. And I used our Caviar Hybrid Copic Friendly ink to double stamp these butterflies. Then I just dried the panel with my heat gun because you want to make sure the ink is dried. And then I colored in the butterfly wings with a nice soft blue Copic marker. For the larger butterfly, I used a nice deep turquoise marker for a little bit of additional shading. This is just some quick and easy coloring, nothing special. Once I was done coloring, I die cut my 3 butterflies using their coordinating dies. When I originally stamped that single butterfly in our gray ink, I wasn't happy with it because it was just kind of there. And after I decided to place these 3 on there, I love the pop of color that it gave to my already busy card, but I just feel like it all went together. Like, look how gorgeous this is. I know this card is a little busy, but I think that everything really goes together. So I'm really happy with the results, but I'm going to make it even more busier now by adding some of our glass slipper sequins. I chose to go with the glass slippers because they're a little bit more subtle and it just adds a nice bling effect. And now I'm going to add our pop-up Morpho butterfly dies to the inside of my card. For today's project, I'll just be using the more detailed dies from this pop-up collection. The die set does come with an outline version of the wings, so you can die cut a piece of cardstock in another color and adhere it behind the wings to give it a two-tone effect. But I was a little lazy with this. I just decided to use this just keep it as a 1-layer pop-up butterfly element. So, but I am going to do a little bit of ink blending on the wings and the body of my butterfly to give it a little bit of interest. So I masked off the tabs because I want to keep the tabs nice and white and clean so that it'll be camouflaged inside my card base. Now I'm just going to blend on a little bit of our bright emerald dye ink onto the wings, but I'm not blending ink onto the entire wing. I'm leaving the top portion of the wing a little white so that we have this beautiful ombre effect. I also added some of our hot tourmaline to the inner portions of the body of the butterflies. Now my ink blending is complete. I just added some adhesive behind my tabs. I slid the 2 body parts together where the slits are, and then I applied that butterfly inside my finished card. You can place the 2 tabs closer to the score line of your card base to make the butterfly pop up a bit more. But my card is now complete. I hope you guys enjoyed my project and video. Let me know what you think of this card in the comments. I'd love to know. Is it too busy? Is it not too busy? Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel because I update it on a weekly basis. I'll see you next time.